Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Swirl Suite. We're doing a short little lunchtime interview today, and we have a special guest. My name is Sarita, and you can follow me at Vine Me Up on all social media. And you can follow the Swirl Suite on Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat. All of our previous episodes you can find on YouTube if you want to see our pretty faces, or as a podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Tanisha, how are you?
Hi. Yes, and it's like a decent hour. I'm so excited. Like daytime and everything. I love it.
So, what time is it there?
It's 5.
Oh, not bad. Not bad at all.
Yes.
Not bad at all.
So
Yeah.
this works.
Yes. Selena Cuffe, so you are a special guest today. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure. So I'm Selena Cuffe. I am the co-founder and owner of Heritage Link Brands, which is a wine importation and production company.
Interesting. Interesting. So, one of our first questions is how you got into wine. I know a very little bit about you because I read this Harvard Business article and it told part of your story about how you were in South Africa and you went to a wine festival that people recommended you not go to because it wasn't safe. And that's kind of where you got the idea to bring wine to the US from South Africa.
Yes, you've done your homework, I see. It actually, that is well said. And just to build upon that, I like to think about this decision to get into the wine business, to become an entrepreneur, as a love story.
Mm.
Because when I think about the various things that I had going on in and around the time that I founded the company, it really was strictly about love. Just 5 months before I got married to my now husband, and I was just in a space where I was looking for inspiration. I'm a very idealistic person by nature. And so as I was caught up in the midst of creating this new unit as husband and wife, and trying to figure out how not only I would go about charting the world in my journey to have impact and see something be different. I was doing that alongside, my soulmate, who I knew was my ride or die to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I had just left a job working for the Procter and Gamble company, where I was marketing Pringles potato chips to children 6 to 11 in Latin
Wow.
America. And
Okay.
so I love the job, and I have plenty of friends that love Pringles, but somewhere I felt like I had lost my soul.
Mm.
It's thinking about it in the context of other
Mm-hmm.
healthier snacks that exist in these countries. And I had recently moved and taken a job where I just still have to laugh to myself, because for a living I would travel the world and try to figure out ways to get either foreign students to come on J1 visas to study in the United States, to learn more about us and to
Mm-hmm.
promote cultural understanding between us and other countries, or it was about getting American students to study abroad and realize that there's a whole world bigger than
Mm-hmm.
just them and America being the greatest country on earth.
Sure.
And so that's what I did. I traveled to 35 countries in the span of about 3 years. And about 6 months into that job, I just decided to look at the statistics and see where these visas were being approved, where we were marketing to students. And of the 50,000, less than 500 were coming from the entire continent of Africa.
Mm.
I
Wow.
thought, oh, okay, all of these conversations that we see on TV about America browning by 2050, I just thought, well, not really, not if we keep our foreign policies the way that they are, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
people
that's a
that,
different kind of brown.
Mm.
oh yeah. So luckily I had a very thoughtful, intelligent, and visionary CEO that I worked for at the time, and I said, hey, in the context of Black Hawk Down in Somalia, the Kenyan embassy bombing. At the time, Al Qaeda had just taken up shop in Mali. I told him we need to be talking to African young people, and they need to be in the U.S. just the same. It's like, that's a great idea. And that's what took me to South Africa, was opening up this market to young people and trying to get more visas issued to Africans to come to the U.S. And so I traversed the country, South Africa, for a period of 2.5 weeks. And on my very last day in the country, before I was flying back, I just happened to be reading a local newspaper. And I thought, you know what? I need to do something. I need to have fun before I go. And within that advertisement was the promotion of the first annual Soweto Wine Festival, which, just to set the record straight, before I got into this business, I knew nothing about wine. In as much as I was a college student in the Bay Area who would go to Napa and Sonoma to have fun in the wine country, but it wasn't something that was passed down to me through the generations or something that my family enjoyed during dinner. And so when I got to this wine festival, which was filled with just seas of Black people enjoying good wine, good music, good food, the very first table that I sat at was a Black woman and her wines, and I loved them. And at the time, I just wanted to know how I could support her venture as a consumer. So I asked her, where could I get the wines in the States? And she laughed at me. And over many glasses of wine at this point, she was able to educate me about South Africa's very complex wine industry and history, which dates back to the mid-1600s, and how today roughly 250,000 people are employed by the wine industry in South Africa. It's the country's largest agricultural export, but less than 1% of those that own, control, manage, or have power within the industry are of African descent or indigenous Africans. And so as she explained that to me, I thought, oh my gosh, wow, this is why I worked at Pringles. It wasn't about the Pringles, learning how to build brands, how to launch brands, how to enable the right steps to ensure that they can be sustainable for the long term. Now, mind you, when I was having this conversation with her, I was just 5 months into my marriage. And so I had to come back and convince my husband that we should invest all of our life savings into this. If we didn't do it.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at me trying to do that with my husband. Yeah, right.
Right. I was going to say, Sarita, being married, like, how would that conversation go over? And you've been married, now you've been married longer than she was at the time. That would be an interesting conversation. So how did he take it?
Yeah, please tell us.
Apparently he eventually said yes, but what did he say at first?
I called him when I got back to the hotel that I was staying at in Johannesburg, and he was just like, yeah, just come home. We'll talk about this when you get here. And luckily, we had the support of living on a business school campus to somewhat prop up. And prop is probably not the best word, because people are candid enough at the Harvard Business School to tell you whether or not they think that an idea is good or bad. So what happened very quickly was we had a swarm of support around us that thought that this idea was brilliant, that their stories were of Black wine producers trying to, in a post-apartheid South Africa, produce new fruit for the country, all pun intended. They thought was brilliant, especially with the growing middle class in South Africa that would be looking for ways to vacation and, venues, weddings that spoke to them and culturally could be more relatable. And so within a month of me going to South Africa, we officially founded the business. And so he was a supportive newlywed husband.
Wow.
A month after, it was faster than that.
You would be sitting on ideas for years. Like, yeah, so 10 years later, I came back to it and thought about it.
Look, after
3
we
people
separated.
had already done it. Right. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, just to add on to that, not even 4 weeks later, I found out that I was pregnant with my first kid.
Wow.
And so, believe it or not,
because you didn't have enough on your plate. All right.
Yeah, I cried because I was like, okay, what's the point of starting a venture in the wine business if your doctor just told you can't really drink the wine? And so we did. For about a week, we thought, is this the right move? Should we do this? Does this put our family in the best position to succeed? Our very budding family at this point. And so, yeah, I guess now it's 12 years later. So we stuck. And we have 3 kids.
Wow.
Okay, 3 kids, still married, business going. Strong. Okay.
All right. Y'all still together. That's wonderful.
Right. If y'all not motivated listening to this, I don't know. You're not going to be motivated.
And we've expanded. We've expanded in a way that I did not expect. Last year, we made an investment to acquire an interest in vineyards in South Africa. So we now are vineyard owners. And that's been fascinating because I never expected to go to school to become a farmer. And that is, in essence, what we are now. What I love is that 2 years ago, I was able to take my children to South Africa to go visit the farm and have them experience life. And mind you, I have 2 boys and a girl. And at the time they went, my daughter was just a year old and my boys were 7 and 9. So she probably has no clue what she experienced. But it was good because their affinity and their association with the continent is very, very different than what mine was at 7 and 9. I had nobody wanted to be associated with Africa.
Sure.
No.
So
that's why you had to eat all your dinner because there were kids starving in Africa.
Exactly.
That's what your association was with it when you were like 7 and 9.
And those horrible commercials with the African kids who are like starving and skinny. Yeah. Anyway, so
and if it wasn't that, it was the blood diamonds. And if it wasn't that, it was AIDS.
Yeah.
It was just nothing positive. And so we look at this every day as a way to just change people's perceptions through the medium of wine, which people often perceive to represent luxury and exuberance and, elegance, all of the things that are positive and affluent, so to speak.
So, well, you own a winery now, so now you got to tell us about it. Can you? Is it too soon?
No. I can tell you, and I can actually tell you.
She has it in her hand. What?
Silk Bush.
It's Silk Bush
Viognier.
It's a Viognier.
Oh man.
Oh,
I'm all leaning into the screen.
I know, right?
well,
I think I heard angels.
Our game to come to Oakland. We're actually sponsoring the Oakland Wine Festival, which is run by an amazing woman by the name of Melody Fuller.
Wait, do you know Tawani? Do you know Tawani Price?
I do know Tawani Price. We've never met.
Yeah.
Been very supportive of our producers, and she's done stuff with like the Seven Sisters. Is Tawani going to the Oakland Wine Fest?
Yeah. She's been posting, and she's a good friend of ours. She's been on the show before.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hi, Tawani. I love watching.
Oh, go ahead about your winery. Go ahead. We cut you off.
So one of the biggest challenges within the wine industry is being able to make sure that you can have consistent quality, the best grapes, the best of all products to go into the wine, so to speak. So whether that's, the best glass for the bottle, whether it's, if you're using corks, you want to just make sure that the quality of whatever inputs is the best. And with the South African wine industry, what a lot of people don't realize, and it actually expands beyond just the wine industry, but when Nelson Mandela and Willem de Klerk negotiated the peace process. They signed a lot of 99-year leases, which meant that, especially within the wine industry, in their goal to prevent people from the educated class that owned and controlled industry, they didn't want this massive white flight. So it still happened. Roughly 1.5 million people left South Africa, and then within 5 years, roughly 85% of them returned. But these 99-year leases were done as a way to prevent that. And when you have that take place, lots of times it's the best land that's locked up. And so what we realized was that South Africa does beautiful wines at the value-driven range, which is like $9.99, $10.99, $12.99. But they also make amazing wines that out of Napa and Sonoma would sell for $100 that they can do for like $30.
Yeah.
And being able to purchase the right land, we found for Black producers is incredibly difficult,
right?
Because no differently than, let's say, African American ancestors getting their emancipation from a plantation that sourced cotton. They didn't own the cotton gin. They didn't have capital to then turn around and buy their own land. And so you had these sharecropper type systems popping up, not just with Black people, white people too. But in South Africa, a lot of the transfer of wealth has come with the assistance of the government, because I don't care what you are, to try to convince people that they should just give up their land for free, especially for the ills that their ancestors performed hundreds of years before, is like a non-starter. It'll cause a civil war, right? And so what we ended up doing was partnering with very close friends of ours who my husband and I met over our time in the wine industry. I knew one of the proprietors because he had graduated from Stanford, my alma mater, but he had graduated in the 60s and was able to get into the California wine industry business before California was California, and before the Judgment of Paris, which really put California on the map with respect to wine. And over a 2-year period, we struck a deal, and now we harvest roughly, 450 acres of land.
Wow.
Across a variety of cultivars. So we've got not just the Viognier, we've got Shiraz, we've got Malbec, we've got Petit Verdot, we've got Pinotage, we've got Cabernet. And the vineyard sits roughly 90 kilometers east of Cape Town. And if you ladies ever want to visit, there also...
Are you serious?
Right. I was like, so tomorrow?
You're in trouble. I got your email address.
Right. What y'all doing tomorrow?
You can sit wine, chill out, enjoy the scenery. It sits amidst a vast conservation area. And right behind the vineyard is a 2,000-meter-foot mountain called Cibusberg, which in Afrikaans means silk bush, hence the name Silk Bush Mountain.
Oh.
We both
Wow.
I know.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Wow.
It's rare that I'm speechless, but yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
It hasn't been easy.
So
I don't want to.
Did you hire a winemaker?
We actually did not have to hire the winemaker. When we made the acquisition of our interest, we retained the same winemaker because he's award-winning. The Viognier that I just showed you, one of the things that I'm most proud of is that it received a double gold at the Michelangelo Awards, which is like the award show for the country. And this wine, we can't get enough of it for the U.S. market. And right now, the only two markets that have it are New York and Chicago. But that will change in August.
Oh,
we
yay.
We have a new container coming over, so it will be available in the U.S. nationally online.
Nice. So, tell me about like the first brand that you added to your portfolio. Was it the lady that you talked to? Oh, was it the lady that you talked to at the wine festival?
Well, actually, before Vivian from the Seven Sisters, we imported a brand called Moody. And Moody in the Swana language, which is where they hail from, Setswana is the territory, but Swana is the language that they speak. Moody is a woman from a folktale that basically started with nothing because her village was ravaged through war, and she left to go to the opposite side of her territory, and through the kindness of strangers was able to rebuild her life. And so Malmsey and Diale Rangaka founded the Moody wine estate with that story in mind. They knew nothing about the wine industry when they started and became the very first Black-owned family vineyard in South Africa. She was a midwife. He was a professor at a Black university in Johannesburg. And he retired and basically cashed in his pension to acquire the first Black-owned family vineyard in the country. And so they were the very first that we imported because they were commercially ready to export. Their wines were phenomenal. We brought them to their very first export market. Their very first client was United Airlines, which we've been doing business with for the past, 9 years.
Wow.
And that helped them to open up additional doors. And then the Seven Sisters was actually the third wine that we brought into the U.S. market. That was another one where the airlines were critical in helping us to transform their destiny. American Airlines brought on the Seven Sisters Sauvignon Blanc as their first wine ever from South Africa. And it was flown in business and first class on all international flights for a period of 6 months back in 2010. And the capital from that contract allowed the sisters to acquire their first vineyard.
Wow.
And we also assisted and took an equity interest in their farm at the time.
That is amazing.
I know. I'm like, I have questions, but I can't formulate words right now. So
what I can share too is we're all about empowering people. And so even in our decision to help finance the Seven Sisters to become the second owned Black family vineyard in the country, we eventually divested the brand and relinquished that interest back to the sisters so that it could be just among their family. Today, their estate is a tourism destination. And there is a lot of residual benefit that we've gotten from it, largely because we still have the relationship with them. But for example, out of the blue 2 weeks ago, the BET Awards called us because someone had visited the Seven Sisters Vineyard in South Africa and just had to have the wines in the presidential suite for, their VIPs. So things like that come together. It has not been easy. I can tell you that during the economic crash of 2008, we almost went out of business.
Wow.
Because one of our largest customers did go out of business and they owed us plenty of cash. So it's definitely not a sprint, but a marathon. And every day I look forward to what I do because I know that my children understand why it is that we do what we do, and they feel a sense of ownership and commitment to to seeing our family business succeed as well as just our people succeed.
Well, gosh, I have so many questions. So you seem to travel. How do you travel so much with the kids? Like, do your husband and you like sort of take turns on who goes on what trip and somebody stays home? Because you guys are based in New York, right?
Yes. So the business is based in California, and so for the most part, everybody on our team is there. Okay. With the exception of me, and then we have brand ambassadors in select markets. So we've got brand ambassadors. Okay. New York, DC, Chicago, and Miami. Gotcha. And the reason that we domicile in New York, and I spend probably, I'd say 30% of the time in LA. The reason that we do it is because it's easier for us to get back and forth to the. I have a very strong extended family that is very supportive of my of the family business. My husband was born here, but he's first generation American. His parents are Jamaican. Oh, okay. And they get it. They understand and they support the work ethic that's required to doing anything entrepreneurial. And we're lucky in that we live on a block where there are all sorts of relatives that live on the block. So my husband has 3 aunties who live on the block with their families. And so when my kids come outside, they're playing with their cousins across the street. And then my mother-in-law is very instrumental. She retired and has just, full time. She just runs these kids. Oh, wow. When we have to travel, she really steps it up. She's amazing. She's like an angel. She cooks most of the time. It really.
That's already a blessing,
right? She does. My grandmother cook real good. She gives a great example of what that can look like.
That's amazing. So when you travel, like, what do you do? Like the next place that you have to go, like, what do you have to do?
Well, the next place that I have to go is to LA for a month, just because there's a lot of meetings so next week I will head to LA and be at the office. And then in between that, I'll head up to Oakland to go do the festival, which honestly, this is not rocket science. I will talk about, the taste profile of the wines, the characteristics, and if there's a sommelier present, we might get into residual sugar levels or total. But most of the time, people just really care about whether or not it tastes good to them. Sure. And everybody's opinion of what that looks like is different, and it's fine. And so if you meet anybody that tries to make it anything more than that, I call BS. But then once I get back from New York, I will actually have to go to Rwanda for a few days to moderate a panel and to speak on a panel that relates to African travel, tourism, and like that being a catalyst for foreign direct investment and for increasing trade between not just the U.S. and Africa, but other nations and the continent. So I'll be in Kigali, Rwanda for the last week of August. And then during October, November, December, roughly 40% of all wine sales take place. So it will probably be pushed to your markets to educate our distributors, since by law we are not allowed to sell wine to consumers. As a producer, we have to sell first through a distributor, and then the distributor sells to restaurants and wine shops. So there may be tastings that I'll do with key customers that have purchased a minimum number of cases from us. And I may even get down to Brazil, which there is a beautiful, beautiful winery that we represent in the south of Brazil called Casa Valduga. And they are the largest sparkling wine producer in the Southern Hemisphere. Sarita, you've had a chance to taste some of it.
It's so good. It's so good.
I saw you close your eyes and lean your head back. I'm like, must have been amazing.
Sarita is the one that you, I think, like the most.
I don't know if you can see this. Oh, I can see it. Yep, that's it. And what did the 130 represent again?
The 130 represents 130 years of winemaking in Brazil. And this particular family is not immediately from the continent, although all people are from the continent. But they immigrated to Brazil from Italy in the mid 1800s, and with them brought their winemaking traditions. And so that 130 vintage was created 11 years ago to commemorate the long winemaking tradition there. But I'll head there probably in December, and then from there head to South Africa to participate in the inaugural Afropunk, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with Afropunk.
Yeah.
It happens in New York, it happens in Paris, it happens in London, but they're having Yes. So I introduced Selena Cuffe, who's the organizer of Afropunk, to the organizers of the Soweto Wine Festival, and now they've partnered together to create Afropunk.
That's going to be something special. So I know Heritage Link started promoting the wines of Africa, and now you do have others, because you mentioned the Brazilian wine, so now you've kind of branched out and done, you import some wines from other countries, other people as well.
We import wines from all over the world because our mission is really to change people's perceptions of Africa and her diaspora. And there are producers of color all over the place. Not only do we reflect that in our Silkbush brand, which is the vineyard that we just acquired, but for the past 4 years, we've been supplying wine to various Broadway plays. So the first play that we began supplying for was The Lion King, and they wanted South African wine, and ironically, our wine was the first South African wine they poured with that play. But now we do the wine for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, for The Waitress, for War Paint, and those wines come from all over the world.
Wow. Okay.
Man.
Yeah. Right. We blend those with our team to produce those. So the wines are women owned and Black owned because they're produced in house.
Wow, I am so impressed. My God.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, when I met you, I knew you were special, but my goodness. Wait, really quick. Can I tell you how we met? We met at a Brazilian wine tasting, and on a previous episode, Selena, I was telling everybody how I am a super introvert. So at these wine events, I sort of have to scan the room to see who I'm going to talk to first. And I was like, who looks nice? I don't know.
I've seen this happen before, so I can only laugh because I've seen this in action.
Yeah, and you were by yourself. I was like, okay, well, we're going to start with a beautiful Black woman. So that's... And that's how it started. And yeah, you were very nice. We talked for a while. We talked for a good while. Yeah. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there is an event that I go to in Dusseldorf, Germany called Provine each year.
Yes.
You, Tanisha goes to Provine.
I've gone there a few times. Yeah. Since it's just
amazing.
And train right away.
And there's just so many wines that you get exposed to that just never even make it to the U.S. market.
Yep.
And I'm very keen to do business, not just within the U.S., but we do a lot within the free trade zone, which is where the margins are the highest. So oftentimes I'll go and look for producers or look for the actual grapes that we can purchase and blend with other things that we find. And so that was actually how we found the Brazilian producer that we import for, Casa Bolduga, was at Provine because their sparklings were just amazing. And they make an amazing Cabernet Franc if you're into Bordeaux style reds.
And we are. Yeah, so I've been telling Sarita that, and then some of the other girls from Sorrel Suite, that they need to come on out to Provine because it is an amazing event. Just to be exposed to all the different wines and spirits that they have is amazing. Even if you're not necessarily there and can do business per se, but just to taste wines from Macedonia and Bosnia, and I mean, some wines from South Africa that you don't have access to. Just any country region that you can think of, they have wine there or spirit there. So, yeah.
One of the wines that we're also playing around with and testing in the market are Senegalese wines. There's a woman, an American woman by the name of Kim Carswell, a sister, who produces palm wine out of Baobab from her winery, and that's like 45 minutes outside of Dakar. And so there is a French Senegalese fusion restaurant that is becoming really prominent in Manhattan called Ponty Bistro. And so we are right now just testing the waters around getting people to try wines that are not from grape cultivar at all.
Wow. Huh.
Now that I'm fascinated by.
Yeah.
Because at Pro Wine, I had my first wine from Tunisia, and I was like, oh, this wine is fantastic. So now I'm all about trying to find Tunisian wines and get to Tunisian tour the region. But if there are other places in Africa that make wine, and even if it's not from grapes, I definitely want to know more about those and taste and tweet and talk and all of that.
There's a dirty little secret that many people don't realize, which is that there's a good portion of table wine in France that has Algerian and Tunisian grapes that source.
Really?
Yeah, because and it has to be table wine. Like, it's not going to show any particular appellation because the regulations don't require as much stringency if you want to put other countries up in there, but. Northern Africa makes great wines. Even the Egyptians made wine thousands of years ago. With the exception of maybe the Congo, I can't think of a particular country right now that doesn't produce its own special type of wine, whether it's grape-based or not.
Wow. That is amazing. Well, we have a little, they're sort of like quick fire questions to ask you. They're just going to get all in your business. So, just really quick. They're fun, though. It's not too much. Okay. One drink, one song after a long day. So, just tell me what you would drink and a song you would play.
Oh, I would have a glass of... Start with the song, because the song will dictate what it is that I drink.
Okay.
I would have on Erykah Badu, On and On.
Okay.
And I would have a glass of a sparkling muscatel that Casa Fuga produces. Because just enough bubbles, just enough sweetness to give me like a nice little bob in my head while I'm listening to Ibadu.
I didn't see that coming. Interesting. I like it. Okay. How long does it take you to get dressed? Say, like, there's no kids or no husband in the house. How long does it take you to get dressed?
20 minutes.
Really?
20 minutes. It takes me 30 minutes with the kids because I have a very simple regimen. I pin curl my hair at night and decide whether or not to clip it to the side, wear it down, but that's already decided the night before. And then I usually just slap on some lipstick and going. That's it.
All right.
Well, that's what's up. Because mine is nothing short of 40 minutes. I have no kids, no husband. I don't have a pet, nothing.
Yep, but the kids,
40 minutes, at least.
Yeah, I get dressed pretty fast, too, especially if I have somewhere to be. Yeah, pretty fast.
And I gotta start early.
So I can't do the shopping thing. Amazon is my best friend.
Really? Not a shopper? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Y'all saw that.
And
Amazon is taking over Whole Foods.
Yes, I love it. It's my favorite brands partnering. So I love it. I think it's brilliant of them. And I think that Kroger and all of the other major retail chains in the United States need to be afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. They should be.
They probably are.
Okay. Next question. Waffles or pancakes?
Oh, pancakes all day,
really?
preferably crepe.
Oh, okay. You got fancy on us. Okay. All right.
My 11-year-old, he is like the waffle king in our house, and I just can't do it. They're just too thick. It's too much.
Yeah, it's like half a waffle, but like 4 pancakes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. As long as this is appropriate, what is the last picture in your phone? What was the last picture you took in your phone?
The last picture that I took in my phone was watching Viceland, which is Vice's, I guess, new show or channel.
Yeah.
And it was about my neighborhood. I live in Brooklyn, and I live in a neighborhood called Bushwick. And it was a story about gentrification. And so I just took a picture of just these stats. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
And it was talking about how the white population has tripled in my neighborhood in like the past 10 years.
Oh.
So I just took this. Yeah, that was the last picture I took.
Man.
To share with my husband.
All right. Well, my last picture was a selfie. Gosh.
Mine was of I did a wine tour last night with some ladies, and it was the group of us on the before we left the wine bar.
So, ooh, tell us about the sparkling Meunier.
Yes.
The sparkling wine that you took a picture of, Tanisha.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
The Pinot Meunier.
Yeah.
That and I don't have a picture of the bottle of it, but just like that flight. That wine, I had never had 100% Pinot Meunier before, so when I saw it, I was like, okay, well, we definitely have to get a glass of this. And I really liked it, especially the fact that it was a rosé. So they said that it was just like a little bit, they did the Saignée method with the bleeding, and then they went on and did the fermentation, and then did the, second fermentation, the champagne process. I liked it because you got a little bit of the tannin, you got a little bit of tartness.
This was the picture. Can you see it?
Yeah, nice.
Some nice red berry fruit. It was amazing. I loved it. So I'm like, I'll be going back in a couple weeks, so I'll just get a bottle.
Nice.
Yeah, that sounds great. Fried chicken or fish?
Fish.
Okay. And what is your favorite lipstick or lip gloss?
I don't have one because I'm not a shopper. So it's more about the color. I don't care who makes it.
Got it. All right, last question. Where was the last place in New York you had a cocktail?
In my house.
You like 2 rooms over there?
What was your cocktail?
It was like a mix of... Actually, no, it wasn't. I mean, if you count this as a cocktail, it was a rum punch that I got across the street from Auntie Patsy, who has a little juke joint down in her basement.
Nice.
Oh, the best.
Nice.
Juke joints.
Well, this is great, Selena. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're super busy. We appreciate you taking your time.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure and an honor. So thank you, ladies, and keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you in South Africa. No.